out to my fantastic expert panel. We begin with former federal prosecutor Fred T.C. Should this be prosecuted as a hate crime, sir?
Well, I'll tell you what, Jane, it should be prosecuted as some crime, and if a hate crime fits, then it should. Then that's one of the crimes that should be used. I got to tell you, when I read this story this morning, Jane, I was enraged. My heart was broken, and as a prosecutor, I went to the New Jersey statutes. I looked at manslaughter, I looked at aggravated manslaughter, negligent homicide, trying to find one of them that would fit. So you know what? If hate crime fits, then let's use it.
Yeah, well, you know, being a teenager is difficult enough. Add that to being gay, and the odds can be sometimes stacked against you. Suicide is the second cause of death among college students, but gay kids are 4 times more likely than straight kids to commit suicide, and 9 out of 10 gay kids report being bullied. 9 out of 10. It's a situation that gay columnist Dan Savage knows all too well. Listen to this.
There were no gay people in my family and no openly gay people at my school, but I was picked on because, I liked musicals and I was obviously gay, and some kids didn't like that, and I did get harassed.
Well, Savage's mantra, it gets better. He now joins us via Skype. Dan, thank you for joining us. Ellen DeGeneres just coming out about this case saying these teen suicides have to stop. Who do you think is to blame? Is it just this individual who allegedly recorded him having a sexual encounter with another man and broadcast it live, or is it really society to blame?
I think we need to find out more about what's going on for Tyler Clementi. It sounds like this was the last straw. What kind of support was he getting from his family? Was he harassed in his high school? And was he in despair because he got to college and thought the harassment would stop, and apparently it was going to continue? In what faith was he raised? I don't think someone whose privacy was violated in this way would just automatically go and jump off a bridge. There's been lots of cases of people who've made sex tapes that have wound up on XTube and other websites, and very few of them commit suicide. I believe that he reached the breaking point here, and this was the catalyst, but I want to know how he was treated by his family, by his church, by his classmates in his high school, because obviously there was more going on here than just this one incident for this young man.
I want to get back to my big issue tonight. Was this a hate crime? It sounds like, to me, it could be. And the gay rights group Garden State Equality, which stands for New Jersey, Rutgers is in New Jersey, believes it is a hate crime. Now, I believe this tweet, allegedly sent by suspect Darun Ravi, shows that he may have been relishing in the fact that he caught Tyler with a guy. Quote, roommate asked for the room till midnight. I went into Molly's room and turned on my webcam. I saw him making out with a dude. Yay. End quote. So, Brian Russell, forensic psychologist, what does that tell you about the suspect's motivation in broadcasting this interaction, this encounter with his roommate and another man?
Great question, Jane. 2 levels of psychology in this case. When the defendants were just watching the victim, it was for their own voyeuristic, stupid, twisted pleasure. But and that was wrong because it was an invasion of his privacy. But when they kicked it up a notch to broadcasting it on the internet, that was intentionally, I believe, to hurt this guy by publicly humiliating him. That's sociopathic. That's why they belong in prison for 5 years. I worry sometimes about the hate crime designation because it says to me that somehow if there's not a hate motive, we should punish it less. And I feel that if the crime is there, we should give the max whether there's a hate motive or not, because if you don't come down hard early in the lives of a sociopathic person, then they're going to continue to find ways to victimize people until you do.
Well, to me, it all boils down to one question. And was this just a stupid juvenile prank, which happens sometimes in high school and even college? Or was this person who allegedly saw his roommate, this guy you're looking at here, in a sexual encounter with another man and decided to broadcast it live, was he acting based on his bias toward the victim's sexual orientation? I think that is the key determinant as to whether or not it is a hate crime. Dan Savage, what's your best guess on that?
I don't think it matters one way or the other. The young man is dead, but I think we can't as a society just point the finger at these 2 teenagers who victimized Tyler Clementi in this way and pushed him over the edge. I guarantee you that Tyler Clementi was not, this was not the first time he experienced anti-gay harassment and bullying, and we need to look at his entire history and hold everyone who played a role in making him so despairing and so feel so hopeless and unvalued that he ended his life like this. It's easy now to point the finger at these two kids. How is he treated in his schools? How is he treated by his counselors? How is he treated by his parents? How is he treated in the churches that he was dragged to as a young man, if indeed his family was religious? We need answers to all of those questions because our entire society is culpable, not just these two kids. This
Anita,
was
Alabama,
straw,
your question, your thought, ma'am.
wax.
Anita, Alabama.
Yeah, I was wondering if the jerk that filmed Tyler, well, being his roommate, he should have known his state of mind somewhat. And I wonder if that guy could be charged with either cyberbullying or maybe even assisting a suicide.
Well, Fred Tisi, he is charged with invasion of privacy, and they are considering now additional charges, including bias. So I understand that he hypothetically could get 5 years in prison.
He could, Jane, but unfortunately for invasion of privacy crimes, it's almost invariably a misdemeanor. I mean, not a misdemeanor, but invariably a probation case. You know, you mentioned a point earlier about was this a prank gone wrong? And this is a perfectly good example. You know, it's one thing when we were kids, if we put a sign on the back of somebody, if we wanted to be mean, that said you're fat or we don't like you for some reason. But when you start putting it, when you stream it live on the internet, the damage that you can do is so much worse. These tools that the kids have, the technology has now made what was a prank, quite frankly, a bias crime. Quite frankly, I disagree with your other viewer. I think it was reasonably foreseeable that it led to the suicide of this poor, sweet young man, and it's got to stop.
It does have to stop, and unfortunately, I feel like we're covering these stories more and more lately, and I wonder why. I want to have all of you back. We're going to stay on top of this, and we're out of time. But come back, Dan. Come back, rest of the panel.